There comes a time in every person's life when they are faced with a question that goes beyond reason, beyond logic, beyond understanding. A question that echoes in the chambers of their heart like a distant whisper, asking, "Is God speaking to me?" Now I tell you, if you are alive, breathing, walking this earth with a pulse and purpose, the answer is yes. But the question is not whether God is speaking. The question is whether you are listening. Too many people walk around with eyes wide open, but spiritually blind, ears perfectly intact yet deaf to divine instruction. You must learn to discern, to interpret, to receive, and most importantly, to act on the signals that are being sent your way. God does not always speak with thunder. He often whispers. He does not always write His will in fire across the sky. Sometimes He inscribes it quietly in the fabric of your daily experience, waiting to see if you will notice the signs, the messages, the confirmations that surround you. The universe is not random. Your life is not a coincidence. And if you are going through something right now, pain, uncertainty, transition, restlessness, you better believe it is not without purpose. There are moments in your life when everything you used to rely on begins to fall apart. The people you once leaned on disappear. The systems you trusted collapse. The plans you laid out so carefully dissolve into chaos. That is not the end. That is often the beginning. That is the divine signal that something greater is unfolding. A shift that cannot be seen with natural eyes, but can be felt in the core of your being. When the foundation begins to shake, it is often because a new structure is being prepared. But you must have the eyes to see it. You feel it in the silence. You feel it in the stillness. You feel it in the moments when no one else is around and a thought drops into your spirit that you didn't manufacture. An idea, a prompting, a conviction, a burden, a sense of direction you can't explain. That, my friend, is not your imagination. That is instruction. And those who obey those divine nudges go on to become the chosen ones, the transformed ones, the fulfilled ones. God does not always speak in dramatic gestures. Sometimes He speaks by subtracting. He removes the distractions, the comforts, the illusions, so you can finally tune into His voice. When God is trying to get your attention, He will disrupt your comfort. He will disturb your routine. He will create a spiritual discomfort so deep within you that you cannot shake it, ignore it, or medicate it away. That disturbance is not something to run from. It is something to listen to, because within it lies the voice of purpose. Some of you are feeling that restlessness now. You cannot explain it. You should be happy, but you're not. You have what you prayed for, yet your soul feels empty. That is not a curse. That is not confusion. That is a holy invitation. It's heaven's way of saying there's more. More to become, more to give, more to pursue, more to awaken. But only those who listen will receive it. You will notice, too, that when God begins to speak, the world begins to push back. That is how you know the message is real. Because divine instruction often comes wrapped in resistance. Whenever your calling is near, chaos will precede it. Just like a baby is born with labor, your next level will be born through pain. So don't curse the contraction. Lean into it, for in it lies your confirmation. And what is God trying to tell you in the middle of your struggle? Sometimes He is saying, you've outgrown this level. You've outgrown the place, the people, the patterns. That's why it's uncomfortable. That's why it no longer satisfies. That's why you keep looking for something new. You're not crazy. You're evolving. And evolution always begins with divine agitation. But God also speaks through people. Pay attention to the unexpected messenger, the stranger who says exactly what you needed to hear, the mentor who appears out of nowhere, the conversation that pierces your heart like a sword, revealing a truth you've tried to avoid. That's not just coincidence. That's choreography. And the voice of God often hides behind ordinary lips. You want to know how else He speaks? Through closed doors, through silence, through delay. We pray for an answer, but when the answer doesn't come the way we want, or when we want, we assume God is absent. But in truth, a delay is not a denial. Sometimes God is silent not because He's not speaking, but because He has already spoken. And now He's watching to see if you trust what He said before. Faith is not just about believing when everything makes sense. Faith is about believing when nothing does. There is a great paradox in the way divine communication works. You must learn to be still and move at the same time. Still in your spirit, but moving in your actions. Taking steps even when the destination is unclear. That is how God guides, step by step, not mile by mile. He lights the path, but rarely the whole road. If you wait for total clarity before you act, you'll wait forever. Faith is the bridge between instruction and manifestation. And sometimes the sign is pain. Yes, pain that awakens, pain that shakes you, pain that brings you to your knees. Not all pain is punishment. Some pain is preparation. Some pain is holy. It strips away everything unnecessary so that only truth remains. It is the fire that purifies, not the fire that destroys. And if you can endure it, if you can press through it, you will come out with a voice that knows how to recognize his whisper in any storm. Another way God speaks is through inner conviction. That quiet, firm, unshakable sense that something must be done, that you must walk away from something, or step toward something, or forgive someone, or start something you've been afraid to begin. It doesn't come with a trumpet. It comes with a knowing. That kind of conviction is not born in your head. It is born in your soul. And when it comes, do not debate it. Obey it. Trust it. Honor it. For it carries the blueprint of your next assignment. You may say, but what if I get it wrong? Let me tell you something, even if you take a step in the wrong direction. If your heart is open and your motive is pure, God will reroute you. He will redirect. He will adjust your course. But you must be in motion. You cannot steer a parked car. The blessing is not in the contemplation. The blessing is in the obedience. You must stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting for everyone to agree. Stop waiting for everything to line up. God often speaks before the evidence shows up. He gives you a vision that contradicts your current situation. But if you trust it, act on it, believe in it, it will lead you out of the wilderness and into the land of promise. So listen closely, the signs are all around you. The unease you feel, that's a sign. The repeated idea you can't shake, that's a sign. The doors that are closing, that's a sign. The people walking away, that's a sign. The unexpected confirmation from someone who knows nothing about your private prayers, that's a sign. The opportunity that makes no sense but ignites your soul, that's a sign. God is not hiding, He is guiding. But you must be still enough to hear, bold enough to act, and humble enough to follow. For the ones who hear His voice and heed His call, those are the ones who change their lives, impact generations, and leave behind a legacy not built on noise, but on purpose. Let that be you. And there's another thing most people miss when God begins to talk to you. Your old desires begin to die. You used to chase certain things. Popularity, approval, validation, temporary pleasures. But now they no longer satisfy. That shift in appetite is not random. It's not boredom. It's evidence that your spirit is awakening to something higher. You start craving silence more than noise, purpose more than popularity, depth more than attention. That change in taste, that change in priorities, that's a divine signal. People around you might not understand it. They'll think you're changing, and they're right, but they'll assume you're broken or confused or going through a phase. Let them think what they want. You know what's happening. God is pruning you, not to punish you, but to promote you. He is preparing you to carry something heavier, something holier, something eternal. And that kind of responsibility requires the stripping of what no longer serves your next season. There's also this undeniable pull inside of you, a calling that doesn't go away. You've tried to silence it. You've tried to ignore it. You've told yourself, maybe later. You've convinced yourself you're not ready. But it keeps returning. It keeps whispering. It keeps showing up in your thoughts, in your dreams, in your conversations, in your daily life. That relentless voice is not your ego. It is your assignment trying to break through the noise. You know what it's asking of you. To leave what's comfortable. To step into the unknown. To trust what you can't yet see. And though it may scare you, something in you knows it's time. Not next year, not someday. Now, The reason it feels heavy is because it matters. The reason it won't let you go is because you were born for it. And when you begin to obey that pull, don't expect applause. Don't expect everyone to support it. Some will doubt you. Some will mock you. Some will distance themselves. Let them. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into your calling. Some were only assigned to your past. Their exit is not your loss. It's your liberation. And here's something else. God often confirms his voice through repetition. You keep seeing the same number. Hearing the same word, reading the same message from different people. That is not by chance. That is alignment. Divine repetition is heaven's way of shouting what your spirit already knows, but your mind keeps questioning. Do not dismiss these signs because they appear subtle. God rarely forces. He invites, he prompts, he nudges. And the ones who learn to respond quickly, those are the ones who unlock the next dimension of their destiny. Sometimes God will speak by giving you favor you didn't earn. Doors will open without your effort. People will choose you without you campaigning for it. Things will fall into place in ways that leave you speechless. That's not luck. That's divine timing. That's evidence you've stepped into something sacred. But you must be spiritually awake to receive it. Too many people pray for a breakthrough but live in distraction. They ask for direction, but refuse to slow down long enough to hear it. If you want divine instruction, you must cultivate divine sensitivity. That means clearing space. That means spending time in reflection. That means eliminating the noise. You cannot hear sacred words in a chaotic mind. And I want to tell you something else. When God truly begins to talk to you, he'll reveal things about yourself you tried to avoid. He'll shine a light on the pain you buried, the wounds you never addressed, the patterns that keep sabotaging your growth. And it will hurt. But that's part of the healing, because God doesn't just want to use you. He wants to heal you. He wants to make you whole. And to become whole, you must face the parts of yourself that are still broken. So, don't run from the inner work. Don't run from the discomfort. That uncomfortable mirror he's holding up is not to shame you, but to shape you, to free you from pretending, to elevate your identity, to call you into the highest version of who you really are, not who the world told you to be, not who fear tried to mold you into, but who you were born to become. And one more thing. When God starts speaking, he'll also start stretching. He will ask you to do things that make no sense. Forgive someone who doesn't deserve it. Give when you barely have enough. Speak up when it's easier to stay silent. Step out when you'd rather stay safe. But understand this: every act of obedience, no matter how small, plants a seed in your future. The harvest may not come immediately, but it will come. And when it does, you'll look back and realize that every hard decision, every painful yes, every terrifying leap was worth it. Because the language of God is not just words. It's movement, it's timing, it's transition. And if you want to live a life that aligns with his voice, you must stop clinging to what's comfortable and start embracing what's calling you. Faith is not just belief. It is bold, fearless action rooted in invisible trust. You don't have to understand the whole picture to take the first step. You don't have to feel ready to answer the call. All you need is a willing heart, a spirit that says, "Speak, I'm listening. Lead, I will follow. Stretch me, I will grow." Because when God finds someone who listens, someone who trusts, someone who acts, he unleashes favor that no man can stop, opens doors no enemy can shut, and builds a life no storm can shake. And when you begin to walk in that divine flow, your life will no longer look like the world's blueprint. You won't follow the crowd. You'll follow the cloud. You won't chase what's trending. You'll pursue what's eternal. Your steps will be ordered not by algorithms, but by alignment. And there will be moments when you won't be able to explain why you're doing what you're doing. You'll just know. Deep in your spirit, you'll sense, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is who I'm becoming. But beware. When God is truly speaking to you, warfare often follows. Don't be surprised when the enemy starts attacking your mind, your peace, your focus, your faith. That's not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's often confirmation you're doing something right. The closer you get to your purpose, the louder the distractions become. That's why you must guard your thoughts, protect your energy, and surround yourself with those who see your vision even when it's invisible to the world. Sometimes God will even speak through exhaustion. You've been grinding, hustling, doing all the right things, but still feel drained. That exhaustion is often a redirection. It's heaven saying, "You're doing too much in your own strength. Let me guide you. Let me fight for you. Let me lead you. You were never meant to carry it all alone." And when God speaks, He often speaks rest, not laziness, but alignment. Rest in knowing that what is for you will not miss you. Rest in the truth that obedience is your responsibility, but outcomes are His. And when you follow that voice, you'll begin to see your life take on a rhythm. Doors open when they should. Resources show up at the right time. People enter your life carrying answers to prayers you never spoke out loud. You begin to move with the wind of something greater. You're not pushing anymore. You're being pulled. Pulled by purpose. Pulled by conviction. Pulled by destiny. This is how God works. He does not always give details, but He always gives direction. And that direction, if followed, leads to fulfillment that no amount of money, fame, or success can replicate. It leads to clarity in the storm, peace in uncertainty, joy in the midst of waiting. Because when you walk with God, you are never truly lost. You are just being led through territory your mind hasn't mapped yet. But hear this clearly: when God talks, He expects you to trust. Trust when it's dark, when it's delayed. Trust when it's painful. Trust when it makes no sense. And trust is not passive. It is an active decision, made over and over again, to believe that His plan is better than yours, even when your heart wants to run back to what's familiar. And as you walk this path, you will be tested, not to break you, but to reveal you. The test isn't about what you know. It's about who you've become. Can you still move forward when it looks like nothing is happening? Can you still speak life when everything around you screams defeat? Can you still believe when the silence is deafening? That's where true alignment is born. In the fire of waiting, in the tension of transition, in the silence between instruction and manifestation. Don't rush the process. God is not just preparing the blessing for you. He's preparing you for the blessing. He's shaping your character, refining your discernment, building your endurance. Because what you're called to carry requires more than ambition. It requires spiritual maturity. And when you begin to walk in that maturity, the signs become even clearer. You stop needing external validation. You stop explaining your moves to people who don't understand your mission. You start moving in quiet confidence. You speak less, but your presence speaks more. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop panicking and start praying. You stop striving and start surrendering. And in that surrender, you'll find strength. Not the kind that comes from effort, but the kind that comes from alignment. You'll move mountains not by force, but by faith. You'll overcome obstacles not with panic, but with peace. Because once you've heard the voice of God, no other voice can shake you. Once you've walked through fire and seen Him preserve you, fear loses its grip. Doubt loses its voice, and destiny gains momentum. And it's important to understand, God's voice will never contradict His character. He may challenge you, but He will never confuse you. He may stretch you, but He will never shame you. If the voice in your head is full of fear, guilt, condemnation, that's not God. His voice may correct, but it will always carry love. It may pierce, but it will never poison. Learn the difference, and you will save yourself years of delay. There are moments when the instructions will be simple. Call that person. Forgive them. Let go. Say yes. Stay silent. Move forward. Be still. They may not make sense in the moment, but later you'll see they were pieces in a divine puzzle. God does not waste a single step. Everything has meaning. Every sign, every word, every delay, every rejection, it's all part of your formation. So stop asking for more confirmation when you haven't acted on the instruction. Don't expect a new word when you've ignored the last one. Obedience unlocks revelation. You want more clarity? Take the step. You want more peace? Let go of what you were never meant to carry. You want more purpose. Release the fear and walk through the door He already opened. Because the more you respond to his voice, the clearer it becomes. The more you ignore it, the quieter it gets. And life without divine direction is just motion without meaning. You can build a life on your own terms, but it will always be missing something. There will always be an ache, a void, a question that cannot be answered by success alone. Because you weren't made just to survive. You were made to fulfill. And once you start walking in that fulfillment, you will no longer crave what the world calls success. Your definition of wealth will change. You'll see value in time and peace and obedience. You'll measure progress not by applause, but by alignment. You'll begin to understand that sometimes elevation doesn't look like more, it looks like less. Less noise, less distraction, less compromise. And in that simplicity, you'll find power, because clarity is power. And clarity comes when you learn to recognize God's voice over every other voice in your life. You'll begin to discern when something is not sent, but assigned. You'll feel it in your spirit. This opportunity, this person, this moment, it's not random, it's divinely orchestrated, and you'll know what to do. Not because it always makes logical sense, but because it resonates. Truth has a frequency, and when God speaks, something in you vibrates with that truth. It might go against what people expect of you, but it aligns with what God designed for you. And oh, how freeing that becomes. You stop living for approval. You stop compromising for comfort. You stop negotiating with fear. You start walking in authority, quiet authority, the kind that doesn't shout, but shifts atmospheres, the kind that doesn't argue, but manifests. Because when you are truly aligned with God's voice, you stop trying to make things happen and start letting things flow. And don't be surprised. When you start living like that, some people will fall off. Let them. Some opportunities will disappear. Let them. Some doors will close. Let them. That's not rejection. That's redirection. That's divine filtering. When God is talking to you, He's also protecting you. Not everything good is God. Not everything open is yours. And part of walking in divine guidance is learning to say no, even to things that look right but feel wrong, because your spirit knows. Long before your mind catches up, your spirit discerns. That unease you feel, that discomfort when you try to force something, that's not hesitation. That's divine resistance. Don't override it. Don't ignore it. Don't explain it away. Learn to honor what your soul is telling you. Because when you begin to walk with God, peace becomes your compass. And that peace, it's not the absence of conflict. It's the presence of divine confidence. You'll be in the middle of uncertainty and still feel grounded. You'll be surrounded by noise, but still hear clearly. Because you've learned to anchor yourself, not in your environment, but in your connection. And that connection cannot be faked. You either have it or you don't. You either feed it daily or you lose your sensitivity to it. You see, God doesn't shout over your distractions. He waits for your attention. And when He speaks, it's not always loud. It's undeniable. Like when you're about to make a move and suddenly feel a pull to pause. When you're about to quit but feel an inner nudge to push one more time. When you're about to compromise and something in you whispers, "This isn't it." That's Him. That's how He protects you. And sometimes He'll speak by removing things. You thought you needed that relationship, that job, that plan. But when it's gone and you're still standing, still breathing, still becoming, you realize it wasn't your source. It was just a tool. And when tools break, the builder always has another way. You were never meant to depend on anything that can be taken from you. That's why God talks to your core, your spirit, not your circumstances. He builds you from the inside out. And when you start building your life that way, from the foundation of truth, of calling, of divine instruction, storms can come, winds can blow, people can leave. But you will not break. You will bend, but not snap, because you are rooted. And those roots, they're not grown in public. They're grown in silence, in solitude, in seasons of hidden preparation. That's why it feels lonely sometimes. That's why it feels quiet. Because you're in the soil. You're not being buried. You're being planted. And God is talking to you, not to make you feel better, but to prepare you to bloom. But here's the key. You must stop talking yourself out of what he already confirmed. Stop needing second opinions for what he made clear the first time. Stop waiting for perfect timing when he already told you to move. The longer you delay, the longer you deny the breakthrough waiting on the other side of your obedience. The blessing doesn't just come to the talented or the intelligent. It comes to the obedient, the ones who hear and then act, the ones who trust the voice even when they can't trace the path, the ones who believe in the invisible promise more than the visible problem. That's faith. That's what moves heaven. That's what causes the impossible to bend in your favor. So if you've been sensing these signs, if your peace is disturbed by old patterns, if your desires are shifting toward purpose, if repetition keeps grabbing your attention, if doors are closing while your spirit is expanding, if the whisper keeps returning even when you try to silence it, then understand this: you are not crazy. You are not lost. You are not late. You are being spoken to. You are being summoned. And when you are summoned by something divine, nothing ordinary will ever satisfy you again. You can try to go back, to shrink, to fit into the old box, but it won't work. The hunger has changed. The appetite has matured. What once thrilled you now feels hollow. What once excited you now feels empty. That's not depression. That's spiritual awakening. That's God saying, you've outgrown that season. I'm calling you higher. And you can't explain this to everyone. You'll try, but they won't always get it, because what God is doing in you isn't meant to be understood by those who haven't heard the same whisper. Stop needing agreement from those who weren't in the room when God spoke to your heart. Stop waiting for support from those who never saw your secret wrestling. They didn't see the nights you laid in silence, wondering if you were crazy for believing this much, for dreaming this big, for hoping again when everything in your life told you to give up. But you heard something. Something that wouldn't let you quit. Something that pulled you through disappointment, through delay, through discouragement. And that voice, it wasn't your ego, it wasn't delusion. It was divine. It was the still, small voice of destiny whispering, keep going. I'm not done with you yet. And when that voice becomes your guide, you begin to move differently. You don't need loud signs anymore. You don't need every detail explained. You just need a word. One word, one whisper, and you'll move mountains. Because now you've tasted purpose. Now you've felt the fire of real calling. Now you're no longer chasing outcomes. You're following orders. And sometimes those orders will stretch you. You'll be called to forgive someone who doesn't deserve it, to bless someone who wronged you, to give when you barely have enough, to lead when you don't feel ready. But that's the nature of divine instruction. It doesn't ask for your comfort. It demands your obedience. And when you obey, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when it looks foolish to the world, you'll see miracles unfold in your life like never before. You'll experience divine timing so precise, it will silence every doubt you ever had. You'll meet people at the exact moment you need them. You'll receive answers before you even knew the question. You'll see resources appear when logic said they shouldn't, because when you walk in obedience, heaven backs you up, and the people around you, some will recognize it. They'll see something different in your eyes, a steadiness, a glow, a quiet fire. Others will feel threatened, confused, even offended, because your growth exposes their stagnation. Don't dim yourself to make them comfortable. Don't shrink to keep their approval. If God is elevating you, it's not your job to apologize for it. It's your job to carry it well. And carrying it well means walking in humility, not hiding in fear. It means staying grounded, not playing small. It means listening more than you speak and moving more than you explain, because you don't owe the world an explanation for your obedience. You owe God your yes. And every time you say yes, the voice gets clearer. The road gets straighter. The weight gets lighter. Because you're no longer carrying it alone. You've stepped into partnership with the divine. You've surrendered the need to control every outcome, and in doing so, you've unlocked a flow of provision, of insight, of grace that no human effort could replicate. And now, you live differently. You don't rush decisions. You wait for the peace. You don't force connections. You discern alignment. You don't chase opportunities. You attract them by walking in your assignment. Because now, you're not working for blessings. You're walking with the blesser,